Hello traders, welcome to the weekly outlook and setups volume 217. Iliya here, and you know what we're going to be doing in this video, having a look at the markets, how they developed this week, what kind of opportunities we had, and most importantly, what we can expect for the upcoming week. Now this week the market is starting a little bit to pick up, to show us a little bit of a direction. Personally, I only took one trade on Euro USD and it was a loss, and I'm slightly pissed about this because I was very patiently waiting for a setup and for a very clear bias, which was longs for me this week on EU. And the only long that I took was actually a stop loss during London, and then the market moved to my targets in New York, which is rather pissed off. But it is what it is. We keep moving on. Slightly bit disappointed because definitely there were a lot of other setups, not that high of a probability, but there were definitely a lot of setups to be taking. But as I told you recently, also in the previous outlook, I am currently really trying to systemize my approach even further and to actually make it more higher probability by paying more attention to liquidity, how the day develops, what liquidity is taken, what is not, in order to really try to enter those high probability setups. Because again, before I was a huge fan of just execute every single setup over and over again, very systematic and mechanical. But then of course that sometimes gets you into like a losing streak and you're like, well, nothing works. Right, and what I spotted for myself is that when things don't work, I'm usually not waiting for very specific things, which I'm currently waiting for. So we'll see how that goes forward. Now, I really hope you had an amazing week. Let me know down in the comments, how did you go this week? And of course, we're gonna go straight into the analysis right now. Be short, simple, and quick. Let's go. Alright, as usual, we're gonna get started with a Dixie, but before we jump into the technicals, let's just have a little glance at the economic calendar. Now, Monday we don't have any red news because I filtered just to have the red news, but on Tuesday we have like a couple of GBP news right there, not that important in my opinion, these three. But then we have GDP for the Euro, and then we have CPI for the US. So Tuesday is gonna be the big day because if you know, guys, CPI in the current market conditions and the current situation with inflation, that is a news release that is very eagerly awaited by investors, and it tends to drive the market a lot. So keep note of that. Wednesday, CPI for the GBP. So we're having a CPI week this week. Then we have retail sales. So Wednesday does look like a very volatile day. Thursday, only some Aussie news during the night, so we don't care much about this. And then on Friday, retail sales. So looking at the news, to me, it looks like the week could be like potentially choppy on Monday. Then Tuesday, we have US CPI. We might actually have some wicks and ups and down. And then on Wednesday, we have the GBP CPI and retail sales for the US. So of course, the week could be shaped by Monday accumulating, Tuesday and Wednesday manipulating, and then Thursday and Friday potentially actually making the real move. Now, what happened this week? Well, pretty much we had an overall bullish week on the Dixie, but following after the previous week's massive engulfing candle right there, it really kind of makes me think, okay, was this just a pullback for the market to continue going higher, or is this week a pullback in order for the market to continue lower? Again, when it comes to the weekly time frame, it is a little bit tough to actually say, because again, from the weekly, we're trading between this low and this high, and the market is currently looking like it wants to pull back a little bit further. But is it really going to come all the way down? Again, still a little bit hard to try to forecast this kind of macro bias. But then, of course, the daily shifted to bearish very nicely. Last week, there is the last week's daily bearish shift right there. There is our pretty much our supply zone. Again, you choose how to pick it. I see that there is actually a little gap right there that we can come in to fill. But that is the daily range. And you can see this week was pretty much a pullback week. And I told this to my team, I think it was like Tuesday or like Monday or Tuesday, that we could either have a pullback week, or we could just start like Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and like pull back to form the weekly high and then flush. So again, my second scenario played out where we actually are having a pullback week. So again, for next week, I would suspect we might hit lower. But again, first we're going to need to see that manipulation probably to come in, feel that imbalance right there, tap inside to the daily zone, and then maybe start rolling. Or if potentially the dollar gets stronger because of CPI and because of the good data that could come out, probably the market could also go with the weekly time frame bullish, and this could just be a pullback in order for the market to continue going higher. So once again, guys, I mean, don't try way too hard to kind of forecast the market, because again, it opens and it does something completely different, and then your analysis is pretty much like not worthless, but you know what I mean. Now here you can see on Monday we started very bullish. And then at that time I said, well, the market could have created the weekly low so that it continues going higher. But then when Wednesday came in, I thought that this could be the weekly high in order to go lower. So that was technically the bias that I had. But once again, I've told you this numerous times, imbalance is not really liquidity. So just because the market feels imbalanced right there, this big gap, that does not mean it's going to reverse. Because usually, again, real liquidity is hidden above highs and below lows, and imbalance is just a magnet for price to gravitate towards that and then to potentially start cooking. And you can see here the market pulled back and like it broke up, then it pulled back, it tried to push up, it broke down, then it actually broke up. So it generated all of this liquidity only to push up. So currently how the structure looks like is this is the last structure break. This is our last demand zone, very clear. And right now pretty much on Friday, like around end of Thursday and Friday, we did nothing. So that is how the Dixie looks like right now. I would say short-term bullish bias. So how I would imagine the week to go is for us to tap inside this demand, to get a long trade, to push us all the way into the highs, like to fill this imbalance, to take out these highs to the left, to even hopefully fill this gap. And then from here, we have to see whether it's going to form like the weekly high and then start flushing. So that is my outlook for the Dixie. Overall bearish again, but I would not exclude the bullish scenario. So again, just because right now the daily is bearish, weekly is bullish, so that could just simply be this previous weekly candle could just be like a little whoop, because you can see we had 4 weeks of consolidation. So this week just took the liquidity, and right now we might start heading higher. So again, keep the long option in mind, and of course, as long as the forward time frame goes bullish, try to follow it. So let's see how the other pairs are looking like in accordance to the Dixie. Well, similar situation on Euro USD. Again, we had this very nice bullish week last week, and this week I thought it's just gonna get a pullback and continue going higher. But again, it failed to do so. So my biggest question right now is, again, is this pullback enough? Are we gonna continue going lower right now? Or is this week just a pullback to potentially continue pushing higher towards like the weekly 50%? Okay. Now, what I also explored looking for answers is I explored the monthly time frame, which is, again, as we saw, we can look at it in many different ways, but I really do like how the market broke down here and it formed this little imbalance right there that the market just came in and filled. But again, like, is it gonna come in a little bit higher to the 50%? Well, I really would like for the monthly to pull back a little bit higher, because also the weekly is like a little bit low. So I would love to see one more pop up and then to potentially get the big short, but again, who knows? Now, daily time frame, similar to the Dixie, again, the market aligned bullish from here. So we have daily higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and then here is the last daily break right now. And again, you can see this week, just looking at this week, we did nothing. So I'm not surprised that I didn't get any trades, but I mean, there were some potential pullback trades, but I'm going to show you why I didn't take them. So right now we have on the daily, we have a push and we have a little bit of a pullback. Didn't do much. You can see that it's actually hasn't really reached 50% on the daily. So I would expect for it to start a little bit with a push down and then maybe to start going higher. But of course, we're going to look for alignment with the Dixie. Now you can see here, we also on the market open, we aligned bearish and we massively pushed down. Then we had a little pullback. And again, on Wednesday, we came in and formed the low. So that is actually the only trade that I regret not taking, because I was looking once again for way too much confirmations. I wanted to catch this move. And then pretty much on Thursday, I tried to catch the long. But again, I caught it a little bit early, then the market threw this wick, and then it actually came in and took out the high. I was actually expecting it to actually go higher, but then it flushed lower. And yeah, technically right now, if you follow the structure, that is your last structure break right there. And this is your last supply. So similar to how the Dixie looks like, right? In a bullish market, this one is a bearish market. And still, like, EU hasn't really tapped, like it tapped inside this very big zone right there briefly. But again, I wouldn't really draw it like this. I would love for it to crash a little bit lower, to potentially even come in and take these liquidity points right here, right? And then to potentially start looking for some sort of longs in alignment with the daily time frame that is going to be in good positioning below the 50%. So that is the forward time frame right now. Again, I don't have a lot of expectations, because if you actually see what we did this week, we did this, right? So it was a overall consolidation. So what I'm going to say as a potential bias is something like that. Okay, and if the market potentially breaks above, then of course I'm going to look for alignment and target the high. So those are my essentially the two scenarios. Like last week, I was pretty clear on the bias. It didn't play out. So let's see, I'm still going to persist with a potential long bias for now on EU. But of course, if I start seeing some shorts kicking in, I'm definitely going to take them. But long term, if we get that deeper pullback, I would definitely be looking to take some longs. Now, the only trade that I took, so if I just go through the week, like for example, on Monday, there was really nothing to take on Monday. But then on Tuesday, I skipped this trade. Why? Well, because the market opened below Asia, it was getting low, right? It took liquidity to the left, and I thought it's gonna pop up a little bit higher to at least collect these highs and then to get a short. No, just reacted here, pushed, reacted here, pushed. So those were two shorts that definitely could have been taken. And then the long on Wednesday was exactly this one. So the market opened during London again, it pushed down, 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 down. It came in to take out the previous daily low. It took out like this New York low from the previous day, and then it gave this alignment right there, but that was London's low, and I really thought this one is gonna just wick it below and then go. So I didn't take this long trade, and that is pretty much my biggest regret this week, not taking this long, because I was waiting for that long all week, right? And then the long that I took was from here, right? So that was, I really don't have the trades because I usually do the trade breakdown when I have a lot of trades, and this week is just one. My trade was taken from here, right? And I was looking for that rush into the high, but again, the market came in, reacted, came in, reacted, came in, tried, and then it flushed lower. It came in to again take some more liquidity, and then during New York, it actually made the move and attacked like this Asian high. And I was actually targeting Tuesday's Asian high, which perfectly got met. So that was my trade idea. But unfortunately, got the stop loss in London. And then during New York, it still kind of gave a little bit of an alignment right there on the 5-minute and even on the 15-minute. But look at how it aligned. Like, I just didn't like taking a trade like this. It still rushed in, but yeah. So guys, this is pretty much my week. Here, like this long trade definitely could have been taken, but I think I was more of a short bias at that time. And then London took out the Asian high. And I thought we can continue going lower, so I was looking for a bearish alignment, but it didn't get provided. And at the end of the day, EU ended up chopping around. So yeah, that's my story with EU. Let's see how next week is gonna go. We have huge news. Again, CPI for the US, GDP for Euro. Let's see how it goes. Well, at first glance, Euro JPY does look pretty good. You can see we actually had a bullish week last week, and this one is continuing with the push. Now, again, I don't trade JPYs, but the main question is, did we actually get any sort of setups? Now, the daily time frame continues to break higher, and it opened on Monday, broke higher, Tuesday, a little bit of pullback, push, 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 right? So it just continues to go higher. And yeah, I mean, on the 40 time frame, just as you take a daily high, usually would have expected a bigger pullback, and then the market starts doing this kind of stuff, right? So it takes out this high, and then it kind of takes out this low, and then it comes in and takes out this high. So not very nice, okay? But then it finally pushed up. Here we also had a little bit of a chop, kind of take out the high, take out the low, and then take out the high. I don't like it. Like, the JPYs have never worked for me, but this is currently, that is currently what we have in terms of structure. That is our demand zone right now. But once again, it looks a little bit high right now on the weekly and the daily. A little bit high, but again, guys, as long as the markets keep pushing, you just keep following it. Just beware that the market does tend to throw some sort of liquidity grabs, right? In this case, for example, it kind of broke higher, but then it had to break lower to grab liquidity in order to later go higher. Here it kind of took out the high, then it took out the low, and then it made the move. Okay, so watch out for these panels. You do not want to trade without liquidity being taken. So if I just look at EJ right now, the only thing that I could say is that, of course, I'm going to be looking for something like that. But just beware if the market fakes it down, then of course look for a bullish alignment, and of course beware that a pullback could start, because I mean the daily has been pushing for a while, so we could definitely have some sort of a daily pullback to start filling in. Like, first of all, there is a beautiful imbalance right there. There is one more below. So again, keep this in mind. But overall, bullish bias on Euro Yen. Let's see how it plays out. Let's have a look at Aussie dollar. So what is very interesting on this one is, again, I don't trade the Aussie right now. Maybe I should. But we had a very nice bullish week followed by a very massive bearish week. So usually when you see this, it's a sign of reversal. Because if it was a sign of a pullback, then of course it's the candle would have been a little bit smaller. But this one is a pretty big candle. We just took out the previous weekly high and massively rejected lower. So let's start dropping lower to see how it looks like. Well, still on the daily, it's tapping inside this daily demand, which is pretty much the demand that caused the last break of structure right there. And it caused a pretty nice breakup, But again, you can see it took the market yeah, around 3 bars to push up, and right now it took it 5 bars to push down. So yeah, definitely the momentum to the upside is a little bit more. But again, the market took a lot of liquidity right there. So with like these equal highs, this high, I'm not sure if I actually forecasted this level to be taken. I think I did. And it just took it on Monday. And then it just resulted in a bearish week, which kind of scares me a little bit. Not scare me, but I think the long bias could get invalidated. You can see the market just took it, and then it rushed all the way down to make this forward trend change, which was with a wick. But again, the market just pulls back. What do I always tell you guys? When you have the first trend change, don't wait for a 50% pullback. The market just tends to pull back briefly, break lower. So there is your next breakout structure right there. And then the market actually pulled back to retest like these supply areas and flushed even lower to create another. Yeah, this one's slightly bit tricky with all those wicks, but there is pretty much the breakout structure, and you can take the supply like that. So currently the market is tapping into a daily demand, and we have 4-hourly supply, and the 4-hourly time frame is bearish. So again, I mean, I'm always a huge fan of following the 4-hourly time frame, but again, your 4-hourly time frame is going to go wrong if you don't look at the daily. So again, what can I say about this one is we have to wait a little bit. I mean, it could play around in many different ways. It could just accumulate right there and maybe give a trend change and then push higher. It could start with a pullback and then break lower. So those are kind of the two scenarios that I would expect. I really don't like how Friday closed. Like Thursday was very impulsive, but then Friday, it just makes this kind of nonsense right there. So it's going to be really hard to kind of evaluate what is going to happen. So again, give it a little bit of time. Let's see how Monday opens. And of course, I'm going to be updating you on Tuesday or Wednesday. But so far, this is how I look at the Aussie. I don't like this very massive bearishness that came in last week. So it makes me think that the daily could actually reverse. And we don't have really any Aussie news. And also like the fundamentals are pointing out to a bearish Aussie because they actually, no, I stand corrected right there because I thought they kept the rate the same, but they actually increased it. But that resulted in a bearishness for the Aussie because it was pretty much kind of expected, right? So let's see, still hard to figure out. Let me know guys what you think about the Aussies. I would say I am more bearish for now just because I see this very nice alignment. I really like all the liquidity that is taken, and I do believe the market could be headed to take some liquidity from down there before maybe doing another move. So let's see. Well, looking at AJ, a very massive bullish week followed by a nice bearish week, but not that bearish, right? So it does look like a pullback to me right now, in order to head higher and potentially really tackle this next liquidity point right there. So dropping onto the daily time frame, again on the daily time frame, you can see the JPYs are actually pretty strong. That is probably fundamentally driven. So we saw that, for example, Euro Yen is massively pumping up while EU is still doing nothing. You can see AU massively flushed lower, while this one is just giving us a brief pullback to the downside. So it does look like the JPYs are pretty strong. Now, the bad thing about this one is that it also aligned bearish. So there is our bearish alignment right here. The market pulled back. This one actually pulled back to the 50%, and then it gave a short. So hopefully some of you actually managed to capitalize on this one. And currently, similar to the Aussie, we are bearish on the 4-hourly time frame, but we're bullish on the daily. So I would love a scenario like this, that it starts bullish, gives us a short, rushes into the 50% or even lower, sorry, and then it aligns bullish from here and starts heading higher. Like that would be, sorry for my voice, that would be the perfect week to me, right? Starting bullish, weekly high, going bearish, weekly low, and then potentially to expand based on some sort of news. But for now, on the short term, I'm gonna focus more on shorts, right? Because this is what we have most recently. And I do think we could maybe drive a little bit lower to grab more liquidity in order to fuel a bullish move with the overall weekly bullish bias and the daily bullish bias. So let's see how it goes. That is my outlook for now. Of course, there could be different scenarios. If it starts bearish and taps the 50%, then of course you can look for a 4-hourly trend change and also continue going higher, something like that. So that could be a second scenario. Of course, let's see how it goes. Well, the NZD is pretty much the same, and again, what I actually like about this one is that it's actually reacting from a weekly supply, nicely bullish into the supply, and right now it just prints a very nice bearish candle. Now, again, the problem with this one is that the daily kind of broke down and then broke down and then it broke up, so the daily kind of aligned bullish, but I mean, again, hard time frames will always prevail. If the weekly is bearish, well, this one could go bearish. And then of course on the 40 time frame, the 40 time frame on this one still really hasn't shifted. It's getting there. But of course, if you take this as your major hard low, you can see that it just came on the tip of breaking it. So slightly bit tricky this one. We saw Aussie shifted, Aussie JPY shifted, and the others also shifted, but this one has still not shifted to bearish. But in fact, if you actually have a look at here, there was a little wick out, and then you can technically take this one as a structure breakdown. So that is a very little detail if you take wicks as breaks. Because like that pullback, according to me, it's valid. It's like 8 hours of pullback. Again, this is one of my rules for determining structure. Took it out, and then it pretty much started reversing. Okay, so you could actually say that it's bearish, but then even here at the bottom, what you see is happening is like it's forming these equals, then it breaks lower. I don't like it. I really do like more Aussie USD than NZ USD. Like this one is looking a little bit bearish, but at the same time, it's pretty bullish coming in from here. And the fact that it actually did not really fully align from this major structure, it kind of makes me a little bit questioning the actual bias. Like in terms of scenarios on this one, I mean, if we take the bearish scenario like that, could look something like this. But then if the market opens bearish, I'd look for something like that. So let's see again how it plays out and keep following the momentum and the 40 time frame. So far, you can look at it two ways. It's either still bullish and it's going to respond, or it's either bearish right now if we count this alignment. And of course, we can continue going down. So let's see. But once again, I just don't feel it. I don't like it. So again, most likely, I'm not going to trade it. And just as every other JPY, NZD-JPY also printed a very nice bullish week last week. And right now, it's just a little doji indecision. And again, the most recent logical liquidity point, it's pretty much like that weekly high right there. Now, again, dropping onto the daily time frame, it is most likely going to be bullish from low to high. But you can see actually on Thursday, we came into whoop, sweep that current weekly high, and we rejected. So the NZDs are, I don't like them. I mean, even look at this, like the JPYs on Aussie JPY and Euro JPY looked way better. Like this one just came in to cause actually a 4-hourly wick out, and then it came down to cause a 4-hourly wick down, right? So technically bearish, but at the same time, it's very bullish coming from the downside. So what is it doing? But again, if you actually just see it logically, what it did this week, it did nothing. Like, yeah, this is actually from last week, pulled back, then it did nothing. And then this week opened on, no, sorry. Yeah, this is this week, 6th, right? So pull back, try to push up, actually fulfilled the overall objective. Like if you're looking at like this, from this low to this high, 50%, it actually reached the overall objective if you're looking for longs. Rejected massively, and right now is just like consolidating end of Thursday and the whole Friday. So again, like it could do a lot of things. Pull back and short, go lower, TC up and long. Again, guys, let's wait and see what is going to happen. Personally, I do not like the NZDs. The Aussies are looking much better right now. Why are the JPYs so strong? Well, because of USD JPY, and this one looks like it's straight heading for that 2022 high right there, right? Yeah, that's pretty much the 2022 high, and then the market just massively flushed. So right now we're heading to take that massive liquidity that stays around 152, like very key round psychological number. Now, if you have a look also on the daily time frame last week, we discussed that there was a daily break and the market pullback. It actually tapped on Friday into the daily demand zone, and then we just had a pretty bullish week. So if some of you were trading this one, well, good job, because again, the daily range was the same as the 4-hourly range. So 4-hourly low, 4-hourly high, daily low, daily high. The market just pulled back. And then of course, if you drop to the 50-minute time frame, you look for your like setups, right? And then hopefully you manage to get something on the way up. Now my bias remains the same. The market is coming in very close to the daily high and the 4-hourly high, and then it's coming in very close to that kind of yearly high right there. So as we take those things, then guys, I don't know what happens. Are we gonna expand? Are we gonna just massively reject? Because look at how it's actually cooking right now. It's very slow on the way up. So I say we take it and then maybe reverse, but again, who am I to know? So currently nothing changes. The range is the same, 4-hourly range is the same, driving towards the week high, driving towards 152. And as this gets tapped, guys, again, there we have to wait, evaluate, and see what is gonna happen. So USD JPY, same analysis. If you can get a long before this high is taken, then that's good. Let's have a look at GBP USD. Now I have the same dilemma as I have with EU on this one. We had this bullish week. So what this bullish week tells us, is it that the market is reversing and right now about to make a weekly pullback, or is it just a liquidity grab mechanism to tag, like, because we had 5 weeks of consolidation, to just take all the liquidity that is resting above and right now to continue going lower. So those are pretty much the two scenarios, guys. We either have a push pullback and a continuation, or we're having like a nice kind of shift of sentiment, pullback, and a potentially going higher to meet like the 50% level of that big weekly leg. Like, those are the two scenarios. But again, we can of course look on the monthly time frame. Like, the monthly time frame, again, depending on how you look at it, right? You can look at it like that. The market pushed, it pulled back, and right now we're pretty much bearish. You can look at it like this, that the market broke structure here and it's tapping into monthly demand, so it turns bullish, right? It's a little bit 50-50, and this is why I tend to trust more like the daily time frame and the FOH. And what we have here is, once again, we aligned bullish on the daily. We respected the daily higher low, right? And then we break again bullish on the daily with a pretty nice candle. And then this week, again, made the weekly high, and we just had a bearish week. And again, what I was expecting is to have like a slight bit of a pullback and then to immediately continue higher. Because I thought this, after NFP, that we have introduced the sentiment and that we're just going to continue going higher. But no, it could look like that NFP was manipulation for the market to go lower. But again, we still do not know. That is the daily higher low. That is the daily 50%. GU is actually right now in a good positioning to go long. But what we have to wait for is for the market to give us a bullish alignment on the FOH. Because first of all, like, the first thing it did this week is to make the weekly high and then align bearish. Then a couple of shorts, right? Then here we broke lower, and then we just wicked out the like the lower high right there, and then we immediately aligned bearish. There is the next structure break, and right now we're just chopping at the bottom again. And the Thursday and the whole Friday was a choppy story. Now, it could develop in quite a lot of different ways. Like, I really like this candle, right, that came in and collected some of these flat lows right there. But I would love for it to make a weekly low and then to show me a clear forward bullish alignment so I can long it. When it comes to shorts, I mean, if you want to short, that is your current lower high. The scenario could also be something like that for a short. But again, guys, I am uncertain. I don't have like full certainty of where is the market going. Okay. But to me, it does look a little bit more bullish. But I'm also suspecting that this one was manipulation for the market to go down. I really do like the body close though. Very convincing body close. But again, let's see. So I am going to follow the FOH. If the hourly time frame continues with the bearishness, I'm going to short it. But if it starts giving me clues that it wants to go higher in the form of like a hourly trend change with a nice body close, not like this, that is pure liquidity grab, breakup followed by a bearish body, absolutely a liquidity grab. So I need to see a clear, bullish, nice break with momentum, pullback, and then it could potentially continue going higher. So let me know down in the comments, guys. Do you think GU is long-term going higher from here, heading for the highs, or do you think we're actually going to have a reversal? Let me know. What is your actual analysis? And as I always say, trust your analysis. I'm just here sharing my insights and sharing my analysis just to reflect on my week and just to... I even do it for myself. And of course, I really love that when you're finding value from that. But always trust your analysis, because my analysis means nothing to you. Bullish weekly closure on GJ, but again, you can see it's not very strong. Just because we had a bearish week on GU, but we had a bullish week on USDN, JPYs do tend to chop around a little bit, right? So again, this one didn't do much this week. And if you go to the daily time frame, well, there is your weekly price action. It just made a higher high, right? As we discussed last week, it made a higher high on the daily, and then it's chopping around. So that is the next daily objective at the top right there. And let's see how the hourly time frame is looking like. Well, the hourly time frame, honestly, it's also still bullish together with the daily. So it just kissed the 50%, aligned internally. It really looked like it wanted to take out the high, but it did not, and retrace back in. So honestly, guys, I am not going to trade GJ as if I was trading it. I don't trade JPYs, you know, but I'm not going to touch this if I was actually trading it, because this low failed to cause a daily high. So that means that this could easily become liquidity, but also the market could decide to go from here. which is not good. I really don't like when the market starts doing like this and it does not take out the high. So that means, again, that was imbalance. Imbalance is not enough to really collect the needed liquidity to make a new daily high. So it could be the market manipulates lower and then it goes higher. So that will be the outcome that I would like to see in order to take a long on GJ. So that's my thoughts right now. Looking at how it's looking like, I don't like it because we're in a very big daily range. So daily low is actually from here, daily low to daily high, and the hourly is pretty much that is the last valid range that caused the break. So again, we don't have any valid hourly zones to trade from. The positioning is still like in the upper, so it's in premium, and we want to get the market into discount in order to long it. So I don't like it, honestly. Let me know, guys, if you do and if you have any bias on GJ. Well, we have a bearish week on gold, which is very interesting. After this, a very nice weekly break. Again, we can just very easily draw that weekly PD range. And then, of course, we see that we have a lot of imbalance, right? They're sitting in below the 50%. And we also have one above it that is just got filled. Okay, so gold is making a pullback. But again, in order for that to push higher, it does need to generate a little bit of liquidity because, again, this move took a lot. So right now it wants to take some steam, go a little bit down, and then, of course, we can start hunting it for longs again. Now, the daily time frame aligned bearish, which is very important right there, which makes this our current daily lower high. And then we go to the 40 time frame. The 40 time frame is also bearish. And you can see like it pushed lower, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So I think the gold traders are having a good time right now. In the community, we have a lot of gold traders, and they tend to go outside of the rules a little bit because gold is a little bit crazy. But they did take some very nice trades. So right now, 40 high, sorry, 40 lower high, 40 lower low, sitting at a lower low. So again, just based on expectations, I would expect a pullback and a continuation lower on gold. And again, we're potentially driving towards taking a bit more of a liquidity. We just took out that daily low. And if that low is taken, then I would expect potentially for the market to hunt lows like that. And then from there to maybe initiate a reversal. So let's see, I'm going to say short-term bearishness on gold. But again, as we start getting towards the 50% of that big weekly range, right? But the daily is also bearish, right? So that truly also tells me that maybe there is a shift of sentiment right now. Let's see, a lot of imbalance to fill. I would first of all like to see some of these lows taken in order to grab liquidity for another move higher. So for now, if I was trading gold, which I'm not, I would focus more on shorts. And let me know, guys, where you think gold is going to go. I'm personally calling around the 50% or at least down there at 1920. Extremely choppy week on the indices. I mean, once again, you could have forced some trades, but very, very, very choppy, very unclear. And you can see it from the weekly candle in US 30 after having a very nice weekly close last week. I really thought this week could expand higher, but no, you can see that it didn't move much, right? That, what is this, 440 pips? I'm not sure, but not a very big move. So then dropping onto the daily time frame, you can see that pretty much the only move that happened was on Friday. And we had like Monday chop, chop, chop. Then we have Thursday making the weekly low, it looks like. And then we actually decided to push higher. And we took out that daily high. So is that really a break of structure? I don't like it so far. I would love to see like one more commitment. And then to potentially start looking for the longs. While once again, like we had this very big push. I thought we were going to get a deeper pullback. But again, we don't always get it on indices especially. So if then I go to the 40 time frame, like it was extremely hard to read, like the clear setup that we had, but again, no entry, was this boy here. We took out the highs, and I thought there is very nice alignment with a very nice bearish body close. And actually US 30 was the only one that closed with a body, right? Pull back, lower high, and then we just dumped, right? Thursday was a very nice dump, causing another hourly break of structure. And then of course the market comes in and creates this hourly break back up and a daily break back up, both with a wick. So just looking at it, I don't like it, and it just did not make any sense to me this week. Like again, as I told you, the only good setup that I had was this short, but the market just opened right there at around, no, this is not New York Stock Exchange even. It just took out London's high and it just dumped, right? Then from here, you could have scaled in potentially for another move, but I could not find a setup that ticked my rules. So again, I did not trade the indices at all. So that is currently the situation, but again, it's super hard for me to say what is next. Like looking at this liquidation, it does feel like we might reverse lower, but of course, if we close above with a body, then we can have a pullback and a continuation higher. So let's see. Those are the two scenarios that I would expect. Again, keeping in mind that it's a little bit high in terms of the weekly range. We could expect a deeper pullback. And so let's see how CPI is going to go on Tuesday, which I do think is going to determine where the indices are going to go next. Well, nothing surprising. Tech stocks are doing crazy, right? You can see Nasdaq is actually having a pretty significant bullish week. But again, as you're going to see, that move pretty much almost happened on Friday. But you can see Monday we chopped for a little bit. Tuesday pushed, and then we have 2 days of a pullback, and then the market expands very nicely. Now, there is no daily break of structure because all of these candles pretty much broke the previous daily high. So there is no pullback right there on the daily. So the bad thing about this is that the daily then still goes from here. So daily low all the way to daily high. Again, if you look close to the left, this is the most recent target that was grabbed. That is the next. So again, after liquidity is grabbed, I would expect some sort of a pullback, at least a reaction. But again, Nasdaq, it is at least clear on the Fowley. There's a very clear Fowley break. There is a clear Fowley higher low, although it's like pretty low. So what I would expect on this one, just looking at the momentum, is a brief pullback and then potentially for it to continue going higher. Again, let's see how CPI goes. But again, there is nothing else I could say about Nasdaq. Very nicely bullish. A little bit high on the range, a little bit high on the weekly, high on the daily, high on the FOH. This is what I don't like. But again, you can see it was high here, it pushed. It was high here, it pushed. It was high here. It still ended up pushing after grabbing a little bit of liquidity and testing this old demand zone that was not really tested. So that is Nasdaq, long bias. If you can catch any longs, that's good. Now, S&P 500 is also trying to get somewhere, and the biggest achievement that it actually did is it made this weekly break, which is pretty good, and it's gonna close with a very nice weekly imbalance. And that tells me that there is definitely a lot of impulsing happening to the upside. And yeah, that pretty much happened on Friday once again. On Friday, just some orders decided to kick in, and they came in and broke out the highs. But again, you can see during the week from Monday to Thursday, nothing pretty much. So again, right now, I don't like it because it's very high. It just took out also the weekly high. So I would love to have a little bit of a pullback to actually come in and fill that weekly imbalance right there. But again, how it's going to form and when it's going to form, we don't know. Now, if you drop to the 40 time frame, you can see that the 40 is similar to Nasdaq right now. It's going to be pretty bullish. Like we just had this accumulation period. Where is this flat lows? Yeah, we just had this accumulation period right there. The market just whoop came in to sweep everything. And then it just reversed very nicely. So again, right now, similar to Nasdaq, it is bullish. And that is our higher low formation. So if we can get like a pullback and a continuation, that is one of the setups. But of course, the market could decide to give us a bearish week as a pullback. Again, guys, we don't know. Positioning is not great, but as long as the momentum is going higher, then I would try to keep it with the momentum and the focus on longs. Because this week, it was extremely choppy throughout the whole week. Of course, then we had this bearishness, and I thought of this bearishness that we could start going lower, but then of course, Friday came in and reversed the market. So it's all good. No setups, no ticking the plan. That's good. At least I didn't personally take any losses. Let me know if you traded indices this week. All right, just to quickly recap right now, I mean, the bias is not entirely clear across the markets right now because this week we had kind of a pullback week on the majority of the pairs. And right now, next week is pretty much going to be the determinant of what is happening next. So for example, on the Dixie, is this a pullback in order to continue going lower? Or was this bearish move of manipulation in order for the market to fuel a move to go higher? Again, we're going to see probably this week because we also have CPI. So for now, I'm having a short-term long bias on the Dixie, drive us higher, which means I have a short-term short bias on Euro USD and a short-term short bias on GBP USD. The Aussie also looks pretty bearish after taking out like these weekly highs right there. So there is a lot of bearish momentum on that. So I do feel like DXY could go higher and everything else could flush. You can see also UJ is very nicely driving higher, which is supporting higher prices on all the JPY pairs, right? And as I said, GU, short-term short bias, but of course this one also looks pretty long, tapping inside this very nice daily demand zone after a very big impulse. So again, we are gonna need a little bit of time to really see and decide what we want to do. And also the indices. So gold is definitely looking bearish right now, which also supports a bullish dollar, right? And of course the indices, they're all sitting at a higher high right now. So we have to see like, are they gonna give a little bit of a pullback to continue, or are they going to reverse to grab a little more liquidity and to give us a deeper weekly pullback in order to then continue? So again, guys, highlight of next week is CPI on Tuesday for the US, We have also CPI on Wednesday for Bank of England. So again, keep this in mind. And again, as I always keep saying, keep following your bias, keep flowing with the markets. Don't marry any outcomes and just listen to the market and what it tells you. And of course, always follow your plan and have requirements before you take a trade. So that's from me. Can't wait to talk to you on Tuesday. Most likely I'm going to be releasing a little educational video next week. So stay tuned for that and talk to you then.